the topic that I really wanted to cover is around mostly measurement and how attribution is such an important aspect of measurement. And it has become even more important in today's times. And why I say this is purely with so many different devices, so many different ways in which a user can reach a business. The complexity has increased manifold in terms of how they should be looking at marketing, and the number of data points that a user is generating, all those footprints, and how do you really make sense of all these different footprints which are there, and figuring out what is right for my marketing, right? What are things which are working, what are things which are not working. So, a clear data point right here, and we are seeing this over the last 3 years, a significant increase in the amount of traffic that we are getting from mobile. Back in 3 years back, that number was about 30–40%. It has already gone up to 70–80% in some cases. And we're seeing this across the globe, more so in India, because India is a mobile first economy, right? A lot of the people in India actually started with mobile. Their internet journey started with mobile, even before they had a desktop or a tablet in their hands. Users, if you think of it, of course, there is another set of users who have got exposure to multiple devices. And all these devices, what it throws is a lot of data at you, right? Because the user could potentially be, during the commute, could be reaching out via his website, or could even be calling a business, right? Now, each of these is a separate footprint for you to figure out how important that is and what are you supposed to, as a brand, do when a user is reaching out. The other interesting point is about 75% of users today are actually switching device while doing an activity, right? It could be something as simple as researching for an insurance. If I'm looking for a life insurance, I might be, through my journey of buying this insurance, I might be switching devices back and forth. I might be, while I'm in a commute, I might be using my mobile, and at different times while I'm in office or maybe at the home in the evenings, I might actually be using my desktop or tablet for that matter. So there's a lot of this, switching of device happening, and it's a massive phenomena that we see right now. And we see this because, we have got exposure to a lot of the data as well from a Google standpoint. So of course, all that is leading to what? A lot of complexity, right? There are so many data points. Back in the days, you just had one website, right? Think of the time when, internet was kind of, still coming along. You had a website, you had just a desktop that you would access the website from. So you had, a fairly good sense of what's happening and what, as a business, and how things are working out from a marketing standpoint. That has changed significantly with apps, mobile site, name it, right? Businesses also have chosen to not just be offline, they are getting online. The online businesses are getting offline. So you're talking about, more and more ways in which a user can touch you today, right? And that is throwing up a lot of complexity across channels, like I said, across devices, and also, like I said, online to offline, right? Now, how do you really bring all this together and make sense of this, right? That becomes a very, very important and critical component of how well you can do marketing. So, the way to think of this is, while this evolution is happening, as a business, I also need to evolve, right? I also need to figure out a better way to measuring things. I can't continue with the 10-year-old established practice of, just looking at a single device as a cookie of a user and say, hey, this is my user right here. Well, the same user also turned up on your mobile phone, through your mobile phone. Did you take that into account? Did you figure how many touch points really a user had with you over the course of the purchase journey, right? So all those aspects have to be factored in when you are taking a decision on how you should be investing in your marketing, what is working for you, what is not. And typically what people do, as you know, simplicity is what really people adopt, right? So what is simple is what they'll say, let's just do this. Well, simplicity doesn't always lead to the right methodology, right? And the perfect example of this is in attribution world, you got multiple different times the user is touching you. Are you factoring all those touches, or are you only looking at the last touch? A prime example of this is I get exposed to an ad, let's say in the print newspaper, for let's say Tata Chroma, right? And I am interested in buying a mobile phone. I see this ad, they are running some offers in the store. I happen to visit the closest one to my home. Now, when I walk into the store, I am handed out another pamphlet which has got some really interesting offers which are running, which are not part of the print campaign or the print ad, but they show up only when I walk into the store. I end up buying one of those phones which show up in one of those pamphlets. Now, the question is, for this conversion, who do you give credit? Do you give credit to the print ad, or do you give credit to the ad that was shown to me or the pamphlet that was handed out to me at the store? That's a classic attribution problem. Some people would say it's actually the former. Had I not seen the print ad, I probably wouldn't have walked into the Chroma store. Well, but I ended up buying a phone which was offered through the pamphlet. So which one do I give credit? And that's a classic problem. People today are choosing to be simple. They are choosing a simple methodology, which is to say just give last click the credit, which means in this case, the example I just gave, you say the pamphlet is the one thing that worked. I don't care for the print ad. So what you will end up doing? You will end up shutting off the money that you're spending on the print, and you'll say, all I need to do is get more and more of these pamphlets in the store. Well, if people don't walk into the store, who will you give those to, right? So you still figure out that there are these different touch points which are equally important, and you can't just ignore the one over the other. And that's what attribution is all about in a nutshell. You have to value the entire journey, right? Each touch point right here leading to a conversion is equally important. But the question is how, what mathematical formula do you use to come up with a number to say, for this one conversion, I give, 2% credit here, 50% credit here, and maybe 75% credit here, etc., etc. So you kind of, and add it up to 100. So you figure something like that, right? Some sort of a mathematical model. And given that I work so closely with so many businesses in India and overseas, I've realized one thing. Businesses which are on top of their game when it comes to measuring and attributing are the businesses which are doing better. And businesses that don't know how to measure their marketing performance are the ones which are lagging, because they end up spending money where they shouldn't be. So it's such a critical component of running a digital marketing or marketing as a whole. So basically two things that I'm going to talk about: the measurement and attribution, right? Measurement is really all about, do I have the right infrastructure in place to make sure that I'm measuring things right in terms of, all the touch points, what is the user doing on the site, etc., etc., or when he's walking into a store, etc. And then you got the attribution bit, which is, now that I've got my entire measurement framework in place, that the thing is in place, now I need to figure out a model, a rule by which I'll say I want to give attribution for a conversion, right? The example that I gave about Chroma, do I want to give full credit to print? Do I want to split the credit into half for this conversion between the print ad and the pamphlet given to me at the store, right? So that's exactly what attribution is going to touch upon. So let's get into the measurement bit. Now, this is something which I just mentioned, right? So only businesses which are tracking the right KPIs are the ones which are doing well, and I've seen this across the board right now. I work with companies across the board, right from the ones who are like, really, really sophisticated to the ones who are kind of just starting out and they don't have any kind of measurement in place. And I see the difference in terms of the understanding of their own business, the understanding of their own consumers, and on top of it, how does that reflect in the marketing programs that they're running. So, as an example, let's just keep the user context on a website, right? When a user searches, for example, let's say he makes a search on Google, visits your website, does he convert or not is a very, very important component. You definitely want to understand whether or not he's converted. Now, whether or not he converted, what other things did he do, right, while he was there on the site? That's also such an important piece, right? Did he actually click on ask now, or did he click on one of those help buttons on the top? Did he actually search for a store nearby, right? What did he do? Before he actually submitted a lead on the website, what all content did he consume? What content are valuable on your website which is driving people to convert? It's not just about saying, this is a conversion and that's it, and I just want to count the number of conversion. It's also important to understand how each of these things are contributing on your website, are contributing to the conversion, right? And how does that work? So Google has a lot of different platforms, a lot of different tools, Adwords, Google Analytics, DoubleClick, etc., which give you all these, they enable you to really track each of these things, each of these interactions, user clicking on specific buttons, user looking at specific products, right? User watching a specific video, right? If you, let's say, again, the point of insurance, right? When I buy insurance, I probably do a lot of research, and most people do. We've got numerous reports out there which say that there is a massive amount of lag between the time when the guy is in the market to buy an insurance to the time when he actually buys it. And there's a lot of research that typically goes on. Where is the research coming from? Where is all the research happening? On the different websites, they are going to Google search, they are making searches, they are doing lots of different things to figure out what insurance suits my needs, right? So all that research is happening. Now I want to figure out how, when the guy is on my website, what are those components which are driving user to finally convert? You can use that, you can do that using something called as conversion tracking in AdWords. So AdWords comes, which is a search management platform where you can use that platform to manage your search campaigns. Now it gives you a capability to track conversions through something called as conversion tracking, which is what? A specific user interaction on the site. When he's on the site, he does A, B, C. Now amongst this A, B, and C, you consider C to be your conversion, which could be a purchase, which could be a lead gen, which could be watching a video, or anything else for that matter. You can use AdWords conversion pixel to track any of this, right? So the first and the foremost thing is get your conversion tracking in place. And the point I was making, simply tracking the sale is not enough. You also want to make sure that all aspects leading to the sale are also tracked, so that you get a holistic view of what's happening along the journey, right? There are so many things you can do. You can think about your newsletter sign-up. So if you're a B2B company, you're talking about content marketing, right? For you, it becomes very important to get people to engage, businesses to engage, which means things like newsletter sign-ups become very important because you're doing a lot of content marketing. If you're a media business, with lots of videos on your site, you probably want to also figure out the video view as a conversion. Every watched video probably is a conversion for you, right? So depending on what the business is, you have to figure out what the right metric that you want to track and use AdWords conversion pixel for that, right? Things like in-store purchases. Now we've reached a point where we have not just started tracking the online website interactions, but even interactions outside the website, outside the app, things like in-store purchases. So we've got now ways and means to get all that data integrated into AdWords or Google Analytics and give a holistic view to you to say that, this campaign drove these many in-store conversions, right? So that's where we are going with this. We want to give the marketer a full view on what's happening. So let's get into the attribution side. Enough said on the measurement. From an attribution standpoint, what's happening? And I'll kind of start with this. There are two of the finest footballers out there. Now, between these two, who do you think is more valuable as a footballer? Everybody says Messi here. Does it change now? This guy scored 105 goals in one calendar year. This guy scored 86. Does the answer change? There you go. So this is, there are numerous magazines out there which kind of, rank footballers, rate footballers. And what you see is they also ranked Messi higher than this guy for this reason. Messi creates more chances for the team to score goals. This is exactly what attribution is. Now, this kind of sums it up. I've got different digital marketing channels or marketing channels working for me, right, in collaboration to achieve a goal, which is to achieve a business objective, right, to get more conversions, to get more new users, to get whatever else it is, right, that a business is driving through digital. Now, how do I value each of those channels? Holistically understand this is working for me. 4 channels working together, search, social, display, video, YouTube, blah, blah, blah. All that is working well. But now how do I give individual value to each of these 4, 5 different things that I'm doing? Right? And that's where what comes in there is that it's not just about how many goals you score yourself, but it's also about how many times are you assisting. Right? And that's what this is. Digital marketing is not just last click, which means what is the channel which led to the conversion? It's not just that. It's also about all those channels before which are playing a role to get a user through this journey to conversion. Right? That's what this is. This is exactly that. So, football is a game, it's a team game at the end of the day. It's not tennis. Which means that each player is valuable. Can a football team work without defender and a goalkeeper? No, you still need a goalkeeper. You still need defenders, right? You still need midfielders, not just the center forward. You can't have 11 center forwards in a football team, can you? That team is definitely going to lose, right? So your marketing, of course, reflects that. So your marketing is not just about getting 11, everything, all your money getting invested in only the last click channel, the channel which is right at the end before the conversion. But you also want to spend money to get people into the funnel, right? And that's what this is. That's what attribution is all about. The way to think of this is, and I'll give you some more examples. Look at travel, right? So if you're planning a vacation for yourself, your family, going abroad, do you finish, a thought comes to you that, yeah, I want to plan. I want to now go ahead, summer vacations are coming. I want to take everybody out. Do you, from the time when this thought arises in your mind to the time when you finally purchase, does it all happen in one sitting on a computer? No, it takes a long time, right? You do a lot of research on different places. You figure out, this is a destination, this is a good time to go here, maybe not here. You figure out now which properties I want to zero down on, which hotels I should stay at, etc., etc. You're doing a lot of research. So typically, if you think of it, your planning phase would look something like this, across a week, assuming that you finish your transaction in a week, right? You started searching for the best tropical vacations, right? And you said, let's just figure out what, an ad shows up. You figure out Puerto Rico is probably a great place to go. Then you start figuring out, which hotels. So you probably 2 days later, you make few more searches to figure out which hotels in Puerto Rico make sense, etc. And then, further down, you get exposed to a display ad. A display ad shows up, a banner ad shows up saying, hey, this is a really nice property in Puerto Rico. And then, over lunch, you finally, over 5, 6 days, you end up booking that property, that hotel. So it's about 5, 6 days before you finally made the purchase, right, or booked the hotel. Now, there's more complexity in this, which is to say, some of this could have been on mobile, some of this could have been on desktop. Now you think of the complexity, right? You're talking about, I started on a mobile phone while I was commuting. I got a call from my friend who said, hey, Puerto Rico is a great destination. And that triggered this thing in my mind. I started searching. And that led to, one thing led to the other. And then 3 days, 4 days later, you've got the hotel booked, done. And all these things happening across multiple devices. So now you're talking about such a complex and a fragmented user journey. Not even one cookie. And I'm assuming you guys know what a cookie is here. But essentially, on a desktop, you made part of your searches. On mobile, you made another part of searches. These two are not linked because these are separate cookies. So you can't even figure this whole path, right, along the way. That all these 4 touch points leading to the conversion were actually from the same user. Attribution, as we offer in Google, actually helps you stitch this together. It helps you stitch together all these different devices coming together, all these different touches, searches, etc., etc., all the visits that are happening on your website, all these come together. And then you figure out that, hey, I now know that how much I want to invest on this best tropical vacation keyword, right? Because it's pretty valuable. It drives a lot of people into the funnel and gets them to convert, right? And then you also figure out that maybe, this one here, maybe it's not as good, right? Along the journey, when you're looking at attribution, you start to figure some of these things out. Unless you know what is working and what is not, it becomes very difficult for you to invest correctly, right? where should the money be going is something you will not know unless you know you have got your attribution in place. So what is attribution? Just to kind of get this 101 out. It's basically what we are saying is it's just all about valuing the different touch points. For each goal that Ronaldo scored or Messi scored or contributed to, how much of the credit will you give it to Messi? You can't give 100% of the credit to Messi because somebody else scored the goal, but you want to give some credit. So do you say 20% credit to Messi, 50% maybe to the midfielder, and the remainder to the guy who scored the goal, right? Adding up to 100. And that's what we are saying. We're talking about a mathematical calculation leading to a number which says, at the end of the day, you sum it up to say Messi actually contributed to not just 86 goals, but 86 plus another 50, right? Which he helped in, may not have scored himself. So you're talking about 86 plus 50 is as a net score rather than just being 86, right? And that's what we are trying to figure here. So attribution model is essentially what? Attribution model is just a mathematical formula which actually you define and you say, it kind of set of rules which helps you determine what is the credit assignment to each of the channels or each of the touches along the way. That's what an attribution model is. Yeah, so in this case, the example that I just gave, should I be giving the entire credit for this conversion to the first search, or should I be giving it to the last search here, or should I be giving credit to the ones in the middle? Figuring this out is what attribution is all about. Now, just to kind of introduce the different attribution models that exist out there, you got last click model, which is the simplest model. Everybody wants to go with the last click model, not a recommended model for sure, for reasons that I just already stated. You got a first click model, then you got a time decay, linear, position based. These are models which exist in Google platforms, whether it's Google Analytics, Adwords, etc. And then you've got a data-driven attribution model right there. So these 5 models here, leaving data-driven aside, are rule-based models where you set up the rule. You say, I want to choose time decay as a model of choice. And then what happens, all your conversions that are coming through in AdWords will go through this rule to figure out how much credit each keyword, each campaign gets for that conversion, right? So the rule you have set it up to say is time decay. The rule could be linear. And just getting, kind of getting a little deeper into what each of these models are, let's take an example of these sample path here, starting from a video. A user got exposed to a video ad, then a display ad, then a search ad, and then finally made a conversion over X number of days. Last click is saying that I'll give 100% credit for this conversion to search, which is the last touch point. I'm ignoring these other two. That's what a last click attribution is. Everybody pretty much is doing this today. Do you think it's fair? No, right? Then you got others who, some of them, very few, but they have tried a first click. They tried first click attribution. What does that do? They say, I don't care who got me the conversion. All I care for is which channel initiated the user to me, to my brand. That's the first click right here. Very, very aggressive as a model. So I'm not caring for the conversion. Then you got a linear model, which is saying, fairest of them all, just split the credit equally amongst all the touch points, right? So for one conversion, I'm equally splitting it 33% each, right? Then you got a time decay. Time decay model essentially what does, it says, I will give more credit to channel closer to the conversion, and as the time passes, which means as it goes away from the conversion date, I'll give lesser credit. So you see the decay happening. Some people do the other way. Some people actually do the reverse decay, time decay as well, which is to say that I actually give lesser credit to the conversion or a touch point which is closer to the conversion, and the decay happens the other way. People do all sorts of things, right? And then there's a position based model, which essentially is a U model, where you say, I will give more credit to the introducer channel and the converting channel, lesser credit to the channel in the middle. Now these are all the different models which exist. There is one more model which I left for the last, which is data-driven attribution. That's the most powerful model, and I'll tell you why. So let's just start with a simple example. Again, the same thing. You got a video ad, a search ad leading to a conversion. Let's assume the conversion rate or the probability of a conversion through this path is 2%. Now, what happens if I introduce display in the middle? The rest two still exist. And let's assume that they find out that the conversion rate of this converting path is 3%. So what this means is that this display ad is actually pretty important, right? Just by having this, my conversion rate is going up by 50%. Data-driven attribution is looking at this. It's looking at each of these paths and it's figuring out that how much is the incremental value of each of these touch points. Like in this case, it's figuring out the incremental value of this display ad is actually 50%. Likewise, it will do the analysis for all the different paths and millions of paths. So think of large companies, large organizations. For them, the number of converting paths would be numerous, thousands, if not millions in some cases. Think of Flipkarts of the world. They probably have millions of these, right? So it depends so much on the scale of the business. So in that sense, this is a much superior model. Data-driven attribution is a much superior model because it is learning all the time. It is learning from all the converting and non-converting paths, and it's trying to figure out what's the incremental value. Whereas all the other models that I spoke about earlier are actually static. You set it up, you say it's linear model, done. Nothing changes now. Seasonality comes in, doesn't matter, it'll still be linear. User behavior changes, doesn't matter, it'll still be linear. So what's happening is, it's not improvising, anticipating and adjusting itself depending on what the user's behavior is. And that's what data-driven attribution does. It actually anticipates. If for a business, if the competition really cranks up their budgets in terms of massive TV campaign comes out, now that is going to have some effect on this brand as well, for sure, right? If there is a seasonality that comes in, right? Delhi Goa flights during summers probably go down, right? Less people go to Goa during summers. Now the seasonal element comes in here. Now is a linear attribution model learning from this? No. Data driven? Yes, it is learning. It's saying, the conversion rates are anyways going down, so I need to adjust. So that's the benefit of a data driven attribution over all the other models. This model exists in Adwords, it exists in Google Analytics, it exists in all our systems, DoubleClick, name it. It's a brilliant model, brilliant piece of machine learning which is at play behind the scenes, which kind of bring this out. Just by looking at attribution, you can't take decisions, right? But you need to take action. You need to figure out, what do I do now? I understand this keyword, this ad group, this campaign in search, my search account is doing better. Now what do I do? Well, we also have something else in Adwords which kind of works very well, which what we call smart bidding. What smart bidding does is it automatically adjusts bids and budgets for different campaigns basis the attribution findings, right? So you've got, let's say you change your attribution model in Adwords to data-driven attribution. On top of it, when you start using automation, smart bidding, it automatically adjusts. So, as a user, as somebody who's running marketing for your company, you don't have to go into Adwords and manually make changes to, okay, this keyword is more valuable, let's crank up the bids here. This campaign is less valuable, so let's reduce the bids. You don't have to do all that. You can let Adwords smart bidding do all that for you. So it automatically does it. So, attribution is not complete without actionability, and, through, a lot of things like smart bidding, we are bringing that actionability in as well. But if I have to tell you, how this helps, then here are some case studies. This one is from housing.com. They moved to data-driven attribution and they started using Adwords smart bidding, and they got 68% increase in their overall conversions in the Adwords account. 68%, right? Their CPA, now CPA might come across a new term for some who are not from digital, cost per acquisition, which means cost per conversion, right? As a marketer, this is a very important metric that you really look at, which is to say, how much am I paying for each conversion, right? The overall cost per conversion dipped by 25% for these guys. There are a couple of others, think of these guys on the beach and only apartments. Both are mostly travel. But there you see that how by changing the attribution model, they are able to improve their sales, improve their ROI. Purple Bricks, again in a real estate company based in UK, they found that just by using data-driven attribution and using automation in Adwords, they were able to get 28% improvement in conversion rates on their website. This is massive. 28% improvement in conversion rates is huge. If you ask a digital marketer, to drive a 5%, 10% incremental conversion rate itself is a task. To get a 28% is massive. But this is the kind of change that can be driven if you've got right measurement in place and right actionability on top of it from things like smart bidding in Adwords. So that's all actually I had. Great. Thank you so much.